Hey, welcome into the Husker247 Daily Podcast. I'm Mike Schaefer, joined by Brian Christopherson here. Just one more sleep until Nebraska takes on Houston Christian. And that just means one more sleep until you can fully start thinking about Michigan. Am I right, Brian? I mean, we're ready to turn this thing over to Bryce Underwood and Biff, whatever, and Ernest Hausman and all the great Michigan storylines that we can have going.
Not this
Is that
guy.
fair?
Not this guy. Only one game at a time. I don't even know what's after Houston Christian.
One game at a time
It's
for you. Okay, well,
it's
this
Michigan, you say?
it's Michigan,
Okay.
and they're actually going to be playing on CBS, which is a bit of a big
Ooh.
deal around these parts. So,
Yeah.
there's that too. Let's talk about that Houston Christian game. Let's talk about what Nebraska might be wearing for that Houston Christian game. The last night, the Nebraska social media accounts put out there that a little red on red action, and we think that's going to be the uniform Nebraska will wear on Saturday. I'm told by our site historian, which also happens to be you, this was last done in 1986 against Oklahoma. Is that fair?
Yeah. That was the last time Nebraska wore all red uniforms. Now, for many years, when people would say they need to wear all red, was like, no, it's not a good look, because in '86 the uniforms, they just were more clunky. Schaefer, they
Sure.
had, this was the era of neck rolls and like the bike, undergarment type thing that would come up, you would see, like, but by the jersey and stuff. And I thought the red was kind of mismatching, um like when they wore it in '86. But um things have changed. The uniforms have gotten much sleeker. The recruits wear them, and I think they look pretty cool. And so my take is, go for it. I don't mind doing it once a year or something like that. I think it's kind of a cool look. And so I think it's going to come off well. The last time they wore them was the '86 game against Oklahoma. I remember this one well. I was a wee BC. I was 5, but I do remember the game, because it was the first time I realized as a young boy in Omaha that life isn't fair. Because Nebraska was ahead for most of the game. Oklahoma was the worst thing that could possibly be in my little head. Brian Bosworth, terrible. And Nebraska was up 17-10 with like 4 minutes left, had OU pinned down inside their own 10. And then Oklahoma goes ham and goes like 90 yards. Keith Jackson kind of gets loose, the tight end, not the announcer.
Sooner
And
Magic.
yeah, and here's what's annoying about it. They scored and tied it with like a minute 50 or so left, and they didn't go for 2. And you're like, what? Well, that's weak, coward football by Switzer, you're thinking. But Nebraska, playing to win, went 3 and out so fast, they punted the ball back in like 20 seconds to Oklahoma, who then hits Keith Jackson. Some say he pushed off. I don't think he did, for a big play. And they kick a field goal to win 20-17. And that's when I realized, like, it was kind of a setup as for our Viking fandom, Schaefer, where it's like things are not going to go as you plan them or want them to go, and you just have to be humble and keep charging ahead, because that's the cruelty of football sometimes.
My dad once explained to me that they bought new furniture, and he knew the year of when the new furniture was. It was in the fall of 1986. And his explanation as to why they bought new furniture was Keith Jackson. And then my dad was a huge Boston sports fan, so big
Mm-hmm.
Red Sox fan. And you may remember in the '86 World Series, the Red Sox had a little Bill Buckner action that
Yeah.
happened. So he regarded that as like the worst fall of his life. And apparently took it out on the furniture, which then resulted in new furniture being purchased. So he's always remembered like when stuff was, I want to say it was like a sectional or something like that. Because I got it, I inherited it for college. And I was like, "Hey, how old is this?" She's like, "Let me tell you about that."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we keep our family history in the Schaefers, with our furniture and anger about sports losses. So I wasn't alive for the '86 loss, but at least some part of me
Yeah.
is familiar with its
There
existence.
has been some confusion over the last 24 hours with the '87 game. Oddly, and I can't remember the reasoning, Nebraska hosted Oklahoma in back-to-back years, '86
Mm,
and '87. And so some people have been like, oh yeah, that was the this is our house, we have the keys game, which Broderick Thomas did before the 87 game. And that was more so dominated by OU, even though it was only a 17-7 score. But Oklahoma kind of owned that game. But Nebraska wore their traditional uniforms in 87. 86 was the All Reds, and best that this brain can remember, it's the only time I've ever seen it. So, as I said, uniforms have come a long way. It's going to be a much cooler look now. We've seen it on the recruits and stuff, and it works. And I think it's going to be nice.
Looking at the box score from that day, I'm going to ask you if you think Nebraska will go over under any of these numbers as they play Houston Christian on Saturday. All right, so I've got the box score pulled up. Nebraska had 16 first downs against Oklahoma. You think they'll go higher than that?
Yeah, I think they're going to get over 16. Yeah.
All right. In the first quarter, they had 101 rushing yards on 44 attempts against this OU defense. That is not good.
Well, those were phone booth fights, man. So yeah, I think they get over that. I think this is a game where one person goes for over 100 and one running back is a backup, whether it's Mosey or Nelson. I don't know. We'll say Mekhi Nelson is at like 81 as the second leading rusher.
Okay, wow. 131 passing yards. You think Dylan Raiola will accomplish that by halftime?
I think they'll get over what Steve Taylor with a QB in 86 would have put up against OU. Although, to be fair to Houston Christian, defense is what stands out about them. They've only allowed like 140 yards per game. They've only given up 1 third down conversion.
Yeah,
that's an unbelievable stat. I know the competition, but I looked at the number. Teams have only converted 3.2% of their third downs so far, which is kind of a funny number to see attached to that particular one.
Yeah, that one's. Real quickly, do you know who caught the touchdown pass from Steve Taylor in the 1986 game? Do you have the name off the top of your head?
Was it Todd Milliken?
No, it was not. It was Rod Smith.
Okay.
A Nebraska name I have never
he was
never heard
player.
of before.
Good player. Yeah.
The only Rod Smith I know played for the Broncos. I'm pretty sure it's not the same guy.
Not the same guy, but
all right. So let's skip past completion attempts and interceptions. Nebraska had 232 total yards of offense. Will they have this in the first half?
They will. Yes. I think the score is going to be muted compared to last week, but and by that I mean like 52-7. But I do think all these yardage totals you're giving me, if they don't hit them, there's going to be some concern before this. So I guess you say it's Michigan that's next, and I'll take your word for it.
Combined in this game, and you may not remember this because you, as you said, were just a wee BC. There was 13 total fumbles in this game, 4 of which were lost. But 13 times the ball was just rolling out there on the field. Over under Nebraska Houston Christian, 13 fumbles.
Probably under, although Houston Christian did have 5 and lost 4 last week,
did.
so maybe they threatened that. I think they'll go under, but that goes to show, like, everybody always was like Osborne, this conservative coach, boring football. It's like, there was nothing boring about it. That thing was, they're flipping that pigskin all over the place, and it hit the carpet a few times, usually every week.
All right, so Nebraska had 61 return yards. Will Ja'Cory Barney amass that by himself on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think he's going to take one to the house.
All right.
Yeah, I know this is Hypecast type stuff, but I think Lauren Michelson did predict that on our Hypecast.
She did, and then she said he's going to make a T-shirt commemorating it.
Yeah, she had one of the best oddly specific predictions. So people
very well done.
Should listen to that. Yeah,
absolutely. Listen to the Hypecast. All right, we'll do a couple more of these from the. This wasn't what we were planning on doing, but I'm now infatuated with it. So Nebraska only had 1 sack against Oklahoma.
Ooh.
Will they have more than 1 sack against Houston Christian? They only have 2 for the season.
They're going to double it. I'll say they have 2 this game.
Okay.
Rule specifically brought that up Thursday. He said, I know the ball's been coming out quick. We got to get home. Got to make a couple of those plays and get some more pressure. So I think it's been on their minds.
Last one, and it wasn't as clean as it was against Cincinnati. Nebraska had a few more penalties. They had 9 penalties in 1986 against Oklahoma, cost them 79 yards. Will they have less than 9 penalties or less than 79 yards or more? Or, are you going to split it between the two?
I'm looking right now. So they'll have less. Nebraska's done well with this. So they only had 3 for 27 against Akron, and 6 for 71 last year. Are you talking penalties?
Yeah, I was talking penalties. For some reason, I thought they had more against Akron than they did against Cincinnati.
I'm sorry, Cincinnati. They had 3.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yep, they had 3 for 27 against. I'm confusing my Ohio schools, and then they had 6 last week. So I think they'll go under that. That's actually been a thing we haven't talked about, but has been encouraging. It was one of the things why they won the game in the opener is since he had the false starts, of course, because of the crowd and stuff. And Nebraska played pretty cleanly, except for the one we've talked about a lot at the 1 foot line.
All right, everyone. We appreciate you checking out another episode of Husker 24/7 Daily. On this one, we dove back into a 1986 football game because there could be red jerseys and red pants on Saturday. But it was
we think they are. They didn't actually specify, I don't think ever that's, but I would assume that they announced it for this particular reason. So
it would be odd to put out there and then just have them come out.
Psych, that'd be an old school, like 1990s, not, but
I'd actually find that quite humorous.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Check out everything we got going on at Husker 24/7. Plenty of coverage leading up to the game. Kickoff at 11 a.m., early one tomorrow, and then we'll have all the coverage that you have come to expect from Husker 24/7 after as well. For Brian Christopherson, I'm Mike Schaefer. We're Husker 24/7. We'll catch you next time.